Anyone have any questions for these guys? Yes, Scott.
So, Zach, why don't you just tell us what one of those bigger state-of-the-art units will roughly cost? I'm really curious.
Yeah, I didn't cover that in the talk. You know, we're not to scaled production yet, but from the guidance I've been given with the folks that I'm working with, I would guesstimate the cluster cluck, the 5,000, the original 20-foot barn, that would be probably somewhere hopefully between 20 to 25,000. And so for the profitability numbers, I think 25,000 is the number that I have in that Excel spreadsheet for the cost of the barn. The bigger barn would probably be 30 to 35. It's quite a bit heavier. Heavier it gets, it becomes more expensive to move. That's the one for cattle and hogs. And the Nano 2 for like solar arrays, homesteads, that one we're hoping probably between 10 to 15, somewhere in there. And then the smallest one, the Pico, you know, that one will probably, depending on the level of technology we end up including in the final version, probably somewhere between 5 to 7,500 is what we're targeting. So the smaller ones, you know, are not going to be probably economic. You know, having a $7,500 chicken tractor is not something you're going to make money with your eggs on, but it's more the experience that people are going for.
I got a question here. Dr. Tom, I was just wondering what, you were talking about, you know, bad, unhealthy plants and healthy plants. I had trouble this year with grasshoppers in my flax. How can we get healthy plants, because they didn't like the pasture, so I'm assuming that was more healthy than my crop, but how can we do it without fertilizers to get that to grow?
That is my fourth presentation, so you've just skipped 2 and 3. There's a lot to say, so let me be succinct. One, everything, oftentimes when I go to conferences, people are always talking about the 4-letter S word. And it's in the names of so many different agricultural organizations. Sometimes it's soil this, soil that, and so it's all about soil, 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 soil. And there's an industry that is being given a pass, and that is the other 4-letter S word, which is seed. The seed industry has been given a pass. So that is one of the first things I talk about. I talk about the problem with seeds. And because the seeds are not healthy, it becomes almost impossible. And I make the analogy where no matter how hard I try, I'm never going to be able to make the Olympics on the 100-meter dash. I don't have the genetics for it. You can just look at me and tell it's never going to happen. And I can be as confident as HE double hockey sticks, but there's no way that I'm going to be able to do it. And it's the same way with seeds. If you are starting with a bad seed, there's going to be an impossibility for you to get high bricks from it. Having said that, soil also comes into the picture as well. Soil needs to be healthy enough. If you have a good healthy seed and then you have good healthy soil, that comes next. How do you do something like that? Usually it's all about nutritionals. Right now I'm very big into suggesting nutritionals. So people usually have the mentality, I need to raise this, I need to raise that. I need to have fungicides, I need to have insecticides, I need to have NPK fertilizers. This is how it's done. And I give them alternatives saying, okay, well, what about molasses? What about fish hydrolysate? What about putting down rock dust? What about putting down soft rock phosphate? What about some of these nutritional side effects? There are many different companies out there. I don't even have to pick out one. Many different companies that have nutritional fertilizers that are based upon putting nutrition down. And these are the things that help raise the bricks without bringing it down by doing the traditional NPK fertilizers as well as the pesticide, which is how, it's chemical farming. It's really chemical farming that has helped bring down the bricks level. So that's what I would say needs to be done. So that is, you know, obviously taking a long presentation and getting it down into a small bite as possible. I feel it's also a good idea to mention the Mellow Yellow real quick. I started drinking Mountain Dew after I started having kids. The stress levels were so high and I always consider myself a very high-strung kind of guy, and I wanted to be able to keep my level up, and I couldn't do that. And so I started drinking Mountain Dew, and then I realized, wow, I got some of that back. Right now, as I stand before you, I've got 7 kids. The youngest one is 2. So therefore, no matter where I am or what I do, I make sure that I have Mountain Dew or Mellow Yellow on hand because I am now addicted to it. So this is not something that I would recommend. I mean, maybe you have 7 kids, maybe you have more, but it's come to the point where I realize if I do not get that caffeine boost, and I do not like coffee, and I don't drink tea, and I don't do Vivarin pills, that's what I need to do. So I need to defend myself for Darrell, and that's why I just wanted to mention that right now. If this helps
Thank
at
you
all.
for that, Tom. I call that being on your game, right? You're on your game. We have a question right here.
Question, Zach. And after listening to your full presentation, there's a lot of things come to mind. And one of them is been a nemesis for agriculture for a long time, and that's water quality. Because water quality is not exactly stellar in this country. And what you're doing really is rewriting water quality. One of the items you're doing. And so I just ask if you had any observations from the viewpoint of water quality. I'm not insinuating Iowa has any water quality issues. that was just humor. But water quality is a huge item in the country, and I think what you're doing really addresses it. So any observations you have on water quality?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question, comment. It's been a huge concern of mine over the last 10 years, what's happened in my state. It's embarrassing with what our business does. And we have, and then the attack also that is happening in the state of the visibility of the problem. A lot of the academics are being shut out at the State House. They'd rather see no hear no evil type of approach. And a lot of that is promoted, I think, by a lot of the big ag groups in the state. But I'm not one to pull punches at our own business as far as the reality. There's a lot of good, but we've got to address the bad with the good. And so, you know, one of the things I'd really like to, I think our system is onto something when I look at hog production around, like the example you saw on the slide with you could literally see the nitrogen getting, you know, tied up into the pasture as it regrew versus the status quo where we slop it out there in November and hope that it'll be there next July when the corn crop needs it. And without having a living root in the system. And so one of the things, you know, if we could get funding or folks that actually know how to study it correctly to come in, and I'd really love to sample our tile system, because underneath our plot we have 60-foot pattern tile. That would be very easy to figure out a system and to sample and track that throughout the summer to see what we're actually doing. But yeah, I'm encouraged with what we've done so far, and I'm looking forward to keep pushing it and hopefully be an example of what might be possible with livestock in our state versus the status quo that we have. Because it's a major thing. I mean, one of the, not to go on too long about this, but the dredge ditch that our field drains into, when I was in high school, we used to be able to go and catch northern pike there every year. We could go and catch northern, and they're gone. They're not there anymore, and it's obvious that something has happened, and that's just a micro example right across the road from where we go. And I don't want that to be my legacy going forward.
Any other questions, folks, for these two individuals, for anyone? We got you coming there. Just hold on. You're good.
This would be for Tom. Is there anywhere we can get your other presentations online at all to watch or not?
I don't have them online. The only other one, it's a shortened version, is on Citrus. So the continuation of the BRICS talk continues on to Citrus. So what I've done in the first talk is I've been very general, and I've been very general on purpose. because I'm trying to cover everything. You're trying to cover all crops. In order to do that, you are obligated to speak in generalities. On the second talk, which is online, I zeroed in specifically on citrus with very specific insects, talking about the different gradations. So I had the 4 feeding guilds up there, and I talk about them in reference to that, to talk about how through the degradation of the industry, the different feeding guilds have been pulled over the decades, and how we started with the Teddiganiids, which are the longhorn grasshoppers, and then we moved on to different insects over the past 10 to 20 years at a time, where now we are at the Asian citrusillid, and now a mealybug has moved in, and these are the lowest level insects, and that is something that is online. So that is in a shortened version of the second talk. The third and the fourth talk are not online. All I have to do is be asked to do it, and AEA has been very helpful with me in order to get this online. So if they asked me to put on, God bless you, the third and the fourth presentations, I would be happy to do so. But right now they're not available. It's not because I'm trying to withhold them. It's just they haven't had the opportunity in order to get through that. So that's really the reason why. So I do apologize for that. I understand that there are some things missing, but this is part of the reason too why you kind of go around, is that while people are trying to get their act together in order to get things on YouTube, there are other opportunities to get the message out rather than just sitting here twiddling my thumbs waiting for someone to make an offer to get it online. That's an awesome shirt, by the way. I love it. I don't know what family it is from here, but I've got a few guesses already as to what. No. I'm talking about the dragonfly. Oh, is that the name of the dragonfly? No. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to identify the dragonfly family from here because that's what I do, and I have no life. But.
I hang around some other people that don't have any lives too, Tom, so I know that. Yeah. Yes.
So this is for Tom. I just am curious. We've talked all about bugs and plants. Have you done any work with livestock? And why do I have flies on my livestock? Are they trying? Are my livestock diseased? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. I have not done some work directly on that, but I talked to someone who has. And I asked him about the various flies that were attacking livestock, and without any hesitation, and this took me off guard. And I said, we've got the face flies, we've got Musca autumnalis, we've got them attacking the down here, they're on the face, they're on the back, we've got horse flies, blah, blah, blah. And he said to me, kelp. I said, kelp what? What are you talking about? He says, kelp. He says, they're short kelp. And I said, what exactly is it doing? Give me something of substance. And he says, they need to be fed kelp. And I said, okay, how much of it? He goes, not much, they don't need that much, but it needs to be in their diet. And I said, so iodine is partially a factor here. He goes, iodine is partially a factor. And he says, if this is introduced in sufficient quantities, the flies no longer show an attraction. So essentially you are healthing up, because iodine, among other things, is very healthy for two-legged animals and four-legged animals. And so by introducing kelp into the diet, you can actually prevent the flies from being attracted to the cow, the sheep, the horse. I'm trying to think of all of the animals that I've seen. I've seen so many that are just so incredibly annoyed by flies. And anytime I'd mention that, I'd say, dang, those flies are really bad. Everyone looks at me like, yeah? So what do you do about that? So no, I haven't looked at it directly, but the veterinarian that I talked to, who is now just recently passed, by the way, Paul Detloff, and for those of you who are wondering who I'm talking about, gave me that piece of advice. And so I have not tried it myself. No, I have. I have taken kelp myself for my own personal health, but I have not tried it on livestock. The livestock which we have in our area is not my own. And so I can't go out there and start feeding it, although my kids do it all the time. They enjoy feeding the cows, the sheep, the horses that are all around us. We don't have any on our property per se, but I've seen enough of the problem that I feel like I should almost suggest it to some of my neighbors in order to help them out. So
We need
I
to get
offer
you
that
a
piece of
cluster
advice.
cluck.
Go ahead.
I said we need to get you a cluster cluck. I want to add on to that because that's one thing I didn't talk about. Flies have been a problem for me, and I didn't have that in the slide deck because that isn't as fun, but especially on the pigs, we get them on the back and they get a little dime spot going where they chew and eat, and we've had to treat them. That's one thing we've had to do. The hope was when we designed the system to have the salad and chicken barns come behind that we would get time that right to have the chickens eat the larvae as they hatched, but we haven't had a lot of luck with that. And it's usually the first couple weeks, it seems like that the flies are the worst, but then when the animals get bigger, it seems, I don't know if it's the weather or if it's stuff turning dry, we don't have issues. But it's usually when the animals are the smallest in the system early in the summer, we have the problem.
Question there? It's on.
Is it working?
There we
you
go.
This one's for Tom. Could you just explain to the group a little bit on when they test their bricks, time of day, cloudy versus sun, barometric pressure if a thunderstorm's coming? Just a little more detail on when they should be testing for good reading.
Sure, sure. That's also part of one of the other presentations. Happy to answer it. Thank you for asking them because there's so much that was left out and you guys are filling in all of the gaps that are usually brought up. When you have a high pressure, depending upon how high pressure it is, the plant will realize that it could die and that it could lose everything above the ground level. So plants, all plants, have a tendency to take everything that they have in the leaf, almost everything, especially a lot of the sugars and a lot of the nutrition, plant secondary metabolites, and move it down into the roots. And they could do that within a matter of minutes. In other words, in less than an hour. So they're very quick about that. They detect the pressure change ahead of time, and they will move it down, and we have detected, there were some citrus trees that we were testing, and we knew they were between 4 to 7, very low, but we were getting 1 to 2s from them. And it was during this process they were thinking like, wow, why did they go down so much? And they looked healthy. I didn't understand what was going on. And of course, I'm the dumb scientist. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the plant. And someone next to me is like, yo, look. And he points. And I look up and I see a front. There's blackness on one side and blue sky on another. And so the front that was coming in was a strong front. Classic of some of the storms that we run into in Florida, like a hurricane, where many of the plants will just suck in all of their nutrition, throw it down to the roots, batten down the hatches, and hope to survive. So this happens with virtually all plants. It has to be a strong storm. A rainstorm is usually not enough in order to cause a massive drop in bricks like that, but it is a neat phenomena to see. It's not meant to show any inconsistencies, because when I talk about bricks, I talk about the leaf bricks, and it does have a consistency to it. But when I mention the exceptions, and this is one of the important exceptions, is that a big storm will cause the plant to freak out. And it freaks out by doing this reaction. And getting down to 1 to 2 bricks means there wasn't a whole lot left in the leaves. And then once the storm passes by, you know, everything will move back up again and the plant is good to go, because that's how plants survive, and this is how they've been surviving for so long. So hopefully that answers your question in regards to storms, which is, you know, associated with a low pressure front, and the fact that this is not indicative of just citrus. It is found almost universally among all the plants that are out there and that we are aware of at this time. Okay, good question, thank you.
Okay, folks, I think we'll put a wrap on it. If there's no further questions, Again, certainly appreciate the opportunity to be with you today and appreciate all your participation and the great questions and the great speakers and panelists and facilitators. I think it was a great day for the resource. Give these guys a hand again.